Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to be working on the next 4 spreads in my traveler's notebook that I am making as a gift for my mom for Mother's Day, all about a trip they took in 2019 to Montana. So if you haven't seen the first video in this series already, I completed the title page in addition to the first 4 spreads, which I can just quickly flip through here. Now, today we're going to be working on the next 4 in this album. Before we get into the actual putting everything together, though, I am going to take you over to my desktop computer to show you how I took the digital elements from the Explore More kit from Futurecraft. That is the most recent kit that Futurecraft released. So how I took that digital kit and made it work for me in the Traveler's Notebook. So we'll be altering some cards around and I'll show you the whole process on how to do that. So once we do that, we will come back here. I'll meet you back over at the desk and we will start putting everything together. All right, friends, welcome back over to my desktop space here. So I'm inside of Photoshop Creative Cloud, and before we get into the physical putting together of our spreads for today, first I want to show you how I went ahead and changed up some of the digital elements to work inside of my Traveler's Notebook. So let's start with spread number 5. That's our first one for today. For this one, I used the 4x6 card that you see here, and this one I went ahead and turned sideways. Now I know that when I rotate it sideways, the trees are sideways. It's okay, I'm all right with that. And now what I'm going to do is open up a new canvas. Oh, and I suppose I should show you how I did that. So I went up to image rotation, and I went 90 clockwise, and that just turned it 90 degrees to the right. So now I'm going to open up a new canvas that is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then we're going to go back over to this journaling card, select all of it, Control A, copy it, Control C, and then paste it into the middle of our canvas, Control V. So now that it's here, if we hit Control T or transform, then we can expand this all the way to the edges of our canvas, hit enter, in order for that to come into focus. So now that we have this the right width, we need to make it the right height as well. So I'm going to move this up to the top of the screen here. And then I'm going to grab my marquee tool. Now this one's a bit tricky because it's not going to perfectly align, but we're going to do the best that we can. So what I'm going to do is try and come to a point where things are a little not as busy, I suppose. Like up here is kind of busy. So if I cut this and then paste it, you're definitely going to be able to notice it on the bottom part. But since this portion of our card, which will make a lot more sense here in a minute, since this portion of our card is not quite as busy, we want to select the top part of the top of our selection is what I'm trying to say, to be not as busy. So I've got my selection made. I used my marquee tool, and then I just clicked and dragged a box over the section that I want to recreate or copy. So then I can right click inside of here and select layer via copy. We're going to go and grab my move tool again, and then we're just going to move this top section down to the bottom. Which actually isn't so bad. So you can see kind of that it cuts off right here, but that's okay. And we can go down even a little bit, but it's really hard to tell. And by the time we get photos and words and all that kind of stuff on here, it'll be even harder to tell. So I am okay with what this looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge all those layers together by selecting Control or Command, Shift and the letter E. You can also go down into the layers panel. I'll undo that. And you can click and select all of these by holding the Shift button and clicking on all of them, and then right click and merge visible layers. And that will do the same thing. So the next thing that I did for this card is I also added a couple of journaling lines. So let me show you what that looks like. My plan for this spread, will open both. My plan for the spread is to have a photo here at the top and then a little bit of journaling lines at the bottom. So to make those lines that you see here, what I'm going to do is come over onto the left side panel here and select my shape tool, which right now I have the rectangle selected. There's also a rounded rectangle, an ellipse, a polygon, and then a line tool, which is the one that I want. Holding down the Shift key, if I click and drag a line, this is going to make a very nice and straight line for me. So let's go ahead and do that. When I unclick and then hit enter, my line will be there. So you can see my line. Now my line settings are set to the fill being black, the stroke being none, and then it's a 5 pixel width, I guess is what I want to say, and then a 3 pixel weight. So that's going to help it to be not super fat, but good enough. If you want yours to be thicker, you can increase the 5 pixels up to whatever you want it to be, but it's totally personal preference. So now that I have my one line made, I'm going to grab my selection tool over here, which is the one with the 4 arrows, and I'm just going to make sure that I've got this line selected. From there, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. So now I've got another line. Then we're going to Control T for transform, and then I just need to get it to where I can select it and bring it down underneath in order to create 2 lines underneath each other. Now that I have 2, I'm going to select both of them, come over into my right panel here, my layers panel, right click on the shapes, and we're going to rasterize the layers. That's going to let us do some edits to them and make things a little bit easier down the line. So we still have them selected, so let's copy them and paste them. So now we have 2 more lines, and we can Control T, transform them, bring them down below the other lines here. That looks pretty good. Also, I'm not 100% sure that these lines are in the center. So let's select all 4 of them, Control T, and then from here we can move them until the guideline tells us, yep, it's in the middle, which is right here. I've still got all 4 selected. I'm going to go ahead and copy those and paste them, and then we can move those down as well, and that might be pretty good for this. That might be a good number of lines for what I want this spread to look like. But essentially, that is how I create my journaling lines here. So let's move on to spread number, let's see if spread number 6 has anything that we need to do. Yes. So spread number 6 is a little bit trickier, but that's okay. For this one, I wanted to take this card that says amazing, and I wanted to make it into primarily a journaling card, but also a traveler's notebook sized journaling card. So what I did is I created a new canvas that is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. Then I'm going to take that journaling card, Control A to select it all, copy it and paste it. And then we're going to do our good old Control T and make it fill up the whole space, which that looks pretty good right there. We'll move it up to the top. And now the next thing I need to do is to expand the sections here and get rid of this line. So let's get rid of the line first. What I want to do is come over as close to the other line as possible and select just this section. I'm going to right click and we're just going to cut it out. So layer via cut, and then we can just delete it. Now it did delete out a little bit more than I wanted. So here's another solution that would work just as well, is if we zoom way in and we grab our eraser tool, we can also use the eraser to get as close to, like that is too close, as close to that line as possible, which is probably right about there, and then I'm going to erase the rest. I'm going to grab my magnifying glass and put this back to fit on the screen, I think is better. Yep. So now you can see we've got the boxes here and some extra spots there. And then let's just go ahead and merge all the layers together just to make things a bit easier on us here too. So that was Control or Command Shift and the E. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is grab my marquee tool, because what we're going to do is we're going to select sections of this card, copy them, and then move them in order to make those sections bigger. So I'm going to come right underneath the word date, and that's actually maybe a little too close, all the way down to the bottom, all the way over to the right side. So we have a large box here. Right click and layer via copy. Then we're going to use our move tool to move that section down quite a bit, probably to about there. And then we can, actually we can just use this section now. So now we're clicked onto layer 1, So what we'll do is the same thing. Grab the marquee tool, go right underneath the word location, all the way to the right, all the way to the bottom, layer via copy. And then back to our move tool. And now we can move that section to make it bigger. I'm just trying to make the sections kind of match each other here. And then one more time, we're going to come underneath I was with all the way to the bottom, right click, and layer via copy. Grab that move tool, and we're going to move that section down until it feels like it's relatively the same. So that to me is pretty good. Last but not least, I'm going to grab my marquee tool one more time. I'm going to grab the lines here, these 3 lines, and then we're going to right click and layer via copy. We'll grab our move tool and we're going to move those down beneath that until we've got our lines pretty well set to go. So those look good. Now I also want these lines to go up to the top. So I'm just going to copy, whoops, that is not what I meant to do. I am going to first merge all the layers together. So Command or Control Shift and E, or select everything down here and merge. Or you can also go up to Layer and then Merge Visible. So personal preference, there's lots of ways to do the same thing. So now let's grab our marquee tool once again. We're going to grab a section. Actually, let's grab a section here all the way to the end. So this is going to make my lines only as short or only as long as what is inside of my box. So right click and layer via copy. And then we're going to use the move tool to move those lines up. So this is going to allow us to create lines that also go up to the top. And then we can go ahead and paste them again. And let's not do that. Nope. Let's copy our layers, what I meant to do, and then paste it. Yep, there we go. So that we can add these ones in. And then you could leave this top one, you know, without, or if it bothers you that there is not a line there, you can merge all these layers together, grab that marquee tool one more time, and then just select the one line, layer via copy, move tool, and then you can move that up to create that last line. So there we go. From here, I would go ahead and merge everything together, and then this card is now done and ready to go. See, right there. Yay. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which would be oh, you know what? There's another thing I need to show you in here, this journaling card. So in addition to the amazing card, I also created this journaling card, which is going to serve as a background paper in my spread this month. So here's my spread, or this week. So here's my spread. You can see the pattern paper behind this photo of my parents. So what I did to create this is I opened up the Explore More 6x8, not 6x8, 6x4. Then I'm going to create a Traveler's Notebook canvas, 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. Let's grab the original card here, select all of it, copy. We're going to go back over to the right side and paste it. Then we can move this up to the top. For this next part, what we want to do is we want to use our, actually we might not need, well, yeah, let's grab it. So we're going to grab the eyedropper tool and we're going to pick up this background blue. Then we're going to go to our paint tool, which is not this. Where are you, paint tool? There it is, brush tool. And what I want to do is I want to erase or paint over anything that's not a complete sentiment. So I'll take out, actually the word exploring is kind of okay, but all of these things are not okay. Right around there. But maybe I'll fill in a little bit of extra blue here, just so that it makes this easier. Okay, there's that. Whoop, that got too close. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we can see that this is just blue at the bottom. So let's grab our layer. We're going to copy it and we're going to paste it. So now what we can do is you see that these top sentiments match the bottom sentiments. So I'm just going to make sure that this is in here in the same position as the top one, where it's aligned at the left. And then I'm going to take the next layer and I'm going to move it up until it becomes one, where everything matches up with each other. So now that's good. And then we're going to do this one more time. So we'll paste another layer, bring this one all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to do the same thing, move it up until it fills it all in, which is probably right about there. This looks pretty good. So we're going to merge visible, which let me just show you that here on this. So we're going to go layer, merge visible, and this brings us down to the one layer, and that gives me my pattern paper. So that one looks really good. Okay, spread number 6 is now complete. Let's move on to spread number 7, which doesn't, oh, it does. Spread number 7, I created another pattern paper. So this one is from the 4x6 card that has all these words. So we'll do the same thing. Open up a new canvas, 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. Then we're going to grab our journaling card here. Control A for selecting all of it, copy it, and paste it. And this one I'm also going to have be in the corner here. So I've got one section, so now we're going to add another section. But here is the trick. As you can see, there's actually quite a bit of space in between the words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eyedropper. I'm going to pick up that light blue color now, which you can see here. Grab my paint bucket tool and go to the background and paint that in blue. So now when there's that space, you can't tell as much anymore. So we'll do that. Now I'm going to copy and paste one more time in order to get the sentiment here at the bottom. And what I might do to make this look a little bit more even is to actually move all of those layers up a bit more. Then I can come down to this bottom one and make sure that it is spaced evenly enough, and then merge all those layers together. And that gives me this pattern paper. Okay, so that is spread number 7, I believe. So one more to go. Yes, one more to go. This one. Okay, so for this card, I wanted to turn a 3x4 card that says Go See Do right here into a traveler's notebook page. So first we're going to open up a new canvas, 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. Then we're going to grab Control A for selecting all of it, Control C to copy, go back over to our canvas, and Control V. Then we can transform, Control T, send these edges to, we'll send the sides of the card over to the edges and move it up to the top. Now again, in order to make this reach all the way to the bottom, we're going to have to use that marquee tool and do some more of that selection and copying. So I'll grab the marquee tool. I want to select underneath Go, but I want to get the line and then all the way to the bottom. Then right click and layer via copy. Use the move tool in order to move that down, probably about as far as it can go, and then that will be good. Let's do that again for the word see. We'll do it to right there. Layer via copy, marquee tool, and then bring that down. And then one more time for the word do. Now it's possible I might have to do this again, and we will find out here in just a second if I make it all the way to the bottom. Whoops. Undo that. I want this piece. We do not. So I'm going to go ahead and merge all of my layers together, which I use, Control Shift and the letter E. So we're going to do this one more time in order to give it just a little bit more length. So layer via copy, move tool, and we're just going to move it down a little bit. Next is the word see. Same thing, right click, layer via copy, and then we're going to move it down. And then the word do. Layer via copy, and then move it all the way down. We can go ahead and merge those layers all together, and then this card is done. All right, you guys, so that is the digital work that I did for all four spreads before we get over to the craft table. So next what we'll do is we'll head back over there. I'll meet you at the table and we will work on getting this spreads officially put together. All right, so we are back over at my craft table here, and we're just going to go ahead and start working on spread number 5. So for this one, I've got the full page photo there on the left, and I'm going to look for some embellishments from the die cut pack to see what can go up in the sky. That is one of my favorite things to do when I'm looking at photos, is to pay attention to where there is a bunch of sky or where there is a bunch of white space. So on that photo, I could put something down on the snow on the bottom there, or something in the top on the blue. I feel like the reason I'm drawn more to the blue than anything else is because the sentiments or the die cuts in this pack have a more subtle color tone, so having the bright blue behind them will really help to pop them off of the page. On the left side of the spread, I have the journaling card that we set up from what was a 4x6 card. And then I also printed a photo that would fit in the center there, not quite all the way down because I did want to add some journaling lines as well. So here in just a little bit, I will go ahead and add some adhesive onto the photo and then stick it down on the card. I do want to see if there's potentially some kind of stamp set that I could use to add a title on the journaling section, and I find one that says something like change of scenery or something along those lines. And then for the die cuts, I decided to go with this word that says Rome. And then there is a smaller die cut underneath that I layered that says, I think, National Treasure or something like that, which I thought made sense. I don't think that the mountains are any kind of national park or anything, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. It can still be a national treasure to have beautiful mountains in the background. I think that works. So I do find a stamp set there, and I believe that one came from the road stamp themed set. I don't remember what the name of that one is, maybe Open Road, something along those lines. And I used my scrapbook.com premium black dye ink to go ahead and stamp that up at the top. Then I'm just going to add my roller adhesive onto the photo here itself, stick that down. And then I believe we're going to go ahead and get both of these put into the album. I am going to skip over the majority of this process because I do show in the first video in this series for this particular album the exact steps that I follow to add those pages into my book, but it does get really repetitive, so I took them out for all of the other spreads. Essentially, they are attached to the inside papers using double-sided score tape from scrapbook.com. I like to use score tape just because it's got a really strong hold, so I don't have to worry about things falling apart over time. All right, so we're moving on to the next spread for today. The first thing I did was I grabbed one of those puffy star stickers and I stuck it down on the place checkbox there. And then that's really all I'm going to do to that side of the spread. For the photo side, I'm looking for some embellishments, some die cuts that I might be able to put above my parents' head there. And then I did print my photo slightly smaller than the traveler's notebook size because I also have that pattern paper that we created digitally that will be the mat or the border that goes behind the photo itself. One of the things I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier is all of the digital elements that I printed out, everything that you see for this entire album was printed on matte photo paper. So my photos are printed on glossy photo paper and everything else is on matte. I love using matte photo paper when it comes to things like journaling cards, especially if they are dark or a solid color. I feel like when I use the matte photo paper, it prevents the lines and it lets everything have the closest color match to what it should be when it's actually off of the printer itself. So I went ahead and added one of the, what die cut is that? I believe I added the details die cut. Yes, I can kind of see it now. Above my parents' head, I like, again, the pull of the blues in that die cut and how it pulls from the blues in my dad's coat. So that worked for me. This next one is something, I don't really recall the story to this, but it's basically a frozen waterfall that my parents and my mom's family went on a walk or a hike to go and get to this scene. So I've got a couple of pictures printed in the 3x4 format, and then I have one that is the full page, and then my dad is kind of walking up there near the waterfall. So I'm thinking about adding some die cuts into the snowy space there at the bottom. Again, just looking at the white space. And then on the opposite side, I'm looking also for a couple of smaller die cuts that I can add onto the 3x4 photos just to help break them up. I find one that says "such beautiful scenery," which was perfect for this story. And it also had the colors that went really well with both the photos and the journaling cards. And then I've got another one there that's a banner. It says "unforgettable" that I'm putting at the bottom of the second 3x4 photo. For the right side, I am going to end up putting the speech bubble that I think it says "here and now." We'll see once I move the other die cut. I can't remember at this moment. But I'm going to put that one up in the upper right-hand corner instead of down on the snow. I felt like it drew your attention more to the fact that my dad was there, whereas when I had it down below, all of your attention was drawn to the die cut instead of the entire scene. So it just made sense to do it that way. For the left side here, I'm working on creating a flip up. So what I did is I cut down some plain copy paper into a 2-inch strip by X inch strip. It doesn't really matter. And I folded it in half. So it was folded on the 1-inch mark. Then I adhered the 2 photos on the inner side of the flap so that those will close in upon themselves. And then on top, I added the journaling card there. Now, to help make this a little bit easier to flip, I pulled out one of my Avery tabs here, and I'm just going to add it to the bottom of this journaling card. And then once I have that in place, I'll go through my tiny phrase stickers here in a little bit and find some that work that I can add on top of the Avery tab, just so you can see a little bit better that there is a tab there to pull. To attach everything on, the die cut itself, I'm just going to use my roller adhesive, but the card, because that journaling card is an interactive element that's going to be used over and over again as anybody looks through this album, I decided to go ahead and use my score tape to help it stay down on the pattern paper really, really well. So I'm adding the 2 strips, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps with my roller adhesive. And then we'll stick that down into the direct middle. I love the way that that pattern paper turned out. That was one of the ones that we also made digitally, and I love how the colors match the portion of the frozen waterfall there so well. It just looks really good. So we're going to add this die cut on here. There's like a little piece sticking off that I just needed to trim off. And then I'm also going to grab over those puffy stickers and put a couple of the plus signs. So I'll do 3 groups of 2 and just sticking to colors that for the most part are either in the spread itself or ones that are complementary to it. So on the right-hand side, I stuck down a yellow one just because I felt like that would be a pretty good complementary color to the blue, but then I also stuck down a red one so that it would help to bring the red from the little arrow on the journaling card over to the right side as well. And then I'm going to flank the upper right-hand corner and the lower left-hand corner of the journaling card with a couple more of those plus signs just to have everything go together fairly nicely. Here is where I'm going to grab some tiny phrase stickers, and it just so happens that there were 2 on this sheet that said the exact same thing. They both said fresh air, and that made sense in my head for a title or for a little tab there. So I'm going to just stick them right on top and let them be like that. So I've got one on the top, one on the underneath. And then after I've got that done, we'll go ahead and put both of these into the spread. And then you'll see me put the book back together, flip the page, and then we're going to start working on the last spread for today's video. So this one is fairly easy because we're going to keep things somewhat plain. I am going to trim off a little bit of the white that I accidentally missed there. And then we're going to go through my die cuts again just to see if there's anything that makes sense to put on this photo of my parents and my uncle. And then for the right side, I'm going to go through my stamp sets to find a couple of stamp sets that I can add as subtitles or titles into those boxes that say go, see, and do. So what I'm going to end up landing on for the photo side are a couple of circular type embellishments. So I've got the one there that says favorite place, and it's kind of a peachy pinkish color. And then I also have this black circle. I believe it's a 2-inch circle that says stay curious. So what I'm going to do is layer them up together and have the black one go off of the photo a little bit so I can trim it, and then that will just give me a little bit of interest above everybody's heads that actually will help draw your eye to the tops of their heads as well. For the stamp sets, I find 2 on the Explore More on the Explore More stamp set. And then I also find one additional one from the Staycation themed stamp set. I don't remember the name of that one either. So I will make sure to have my supplies linked in the description box below. So if you're looking for anything that I have used, definitely check down there, and hopefully it will be there for you. If not, let me know in the comment section, and I'll make sure to get back to you on that. So I am going to use my scrapbook.com premium dye ink. This is my favorite black ink, by the way. It goes just really well on photos and really well on the matte photo paper and really well on cardstock. It's just a super awesome, bold black ink. So I'm using that to stamp those titles in the middle of these 3 boxes. And then once I do that, I feel like there needs to be just something else. So I'm going to grab 3 of the triangle shaped puffy stickers, and I will add that at the top as if the word was pointing at the stamp. So where it says go, it'll look almost like it says go, and then that it's pointing to the sentiment there. The same for see and the same for do. So we're going to grab those over here in just a second here to get those on. And I am going to pull over a couple of different colors as I'm working through this, just because I want to add a little bit more of a pop of color onto these. So I've got one that's red that's going to pull in the red from the die cut on the left side. I did one that was blue and one that was yellow as well. I just want to get them adjusted so that they are pointing directly at the stamp set. And I think that that looks really nice to have the color there for just a little bit of a pop of something and some extra dimension on the page as well. I will get the edges trimmed off of this, put the book back together, and then that is going to complete our spreads for today. All right, friends, that completes the next 4 spreads in this album, which means we are now officially halfway through. So we've got the photo here of the mountains and my uncle, his wife, and their son. This one of my parents out in the middle of the woods. We've got this one that's got the flip up here of the frozen waterfall, which was really cool. What a cool picture. And then the last one, which is a photo of my parents and my uncle with just some spots for them to fill in some journaling. So that is now officially 8 spreads done. I am going to be back again later in the month with some additional videos for this album. There will be 2 more, and then at the end of those 2, this album will be complete. So hopefully you will join me back for those. If you enjoyed seeing today's spreads come together, I would love a thumbs up down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can see all of my future crafty videos as well. All right, friends. Well, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Have an awesome weekend, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye now.